As you can see, I'm reviewing Skeleton Crew, short story book. Came out about 1985, back before most of you were born. But the stories still stand up. The first story in the collection is The Mist. Great story. It's a little bit over 100 pages, so it's a novella. I'm sure most of you have seen the movie. A group of people get trapped in a grocery store, and a mist comes in full of all these different types of crazy creatures, probably from another dimension. The next story, Here There Be Tigers. It's a very short story about a little boy who sees a tiger in his bathroom. So he lures his teacher, who he hates, into that bathroom, hoping that she'll get eaten by the tiger. The next story is The Monkey. The monkey is, you see him right there. He's like a little artifact, like child's play. Every time he changes his symbols, then someone dies. So that's and he keeps coming back. The owner keeps throwing the monkey away, but he keeps coming back. So that's more of a classic type horror story. The next one is Cain Rose Up. And that's nothing more than a guy leaning out a window with a rifle, sniping people off at a college dorm. I think Stephen King got this idea from Charles Whitman in 1966. I wrote a similar story called The Tower. Really, really good. Both stories. Next story is Mrs. Todd's Shortcut. This is a woman that's obsessed with making the quickest way to a certain point from A to B. She takes these roads that's not on the map. What it is she's taking a path through another dimension, which cuts her driving time down. It's a weird little story, but effective. The next story is The Jaunt. It's a sci-fi story. It's about a couple wanting to go to Mars, and you have to sit at the jaunt station and get propelled or teleported through space and time to arrive at your destination. But you have to be asleep when you go. So their son decides to hold his breath, and when he comes down the other side, he's not really their son anymore. Great ending. It's good. The next story is The Wedding Gig. This is about a mob boss doing a wedding, and it's told from the perspective of a musical leader. So he's doing the show, and then someone makes fun of his fat wife, then all hell breaks loose. It's like a mob shootout gangster type story. That's pretty good. It's pretty good. Next is Paranoid, a Chant. One of Stephen King's rare poems. This one's actually pretty good. It's about a paranoid guy just going apeshit crazy. I like it. Next is The Raft. This is one of the best stories in the collection. It's about two boys and two girls. They go out to a lake, swim out to a raft, and this oil blobby thing surrounds them and basically eats them. So that's pretty cool. That's a horror story. Next is The Word Processor of the Gods. This is about a guy who gets handed a word processor that's been altered. He can delete things in his life that he wants deleted, and he can create things in his life by pushing enter. Yeah, it really would be a word processor of the gods. Next is The Man Who Will Not Shake Hands. This is kind of a weird story about a guy. Every time he shakes hands with somebody, they end up dead. So he feels guilty about it. So he refuses to shake people's hands. I'm kind of indifferent about that story. Next is Beach World. Another sci-fi story. Two guys land on a foreign planet that's nothing but beach. It's reminiscent of a Twilight Zone. I can see where King got the inspiration for that, because there's been a couple Twilight Zone episodes where astronauts are stranded on a foreign desert. So it is what it is. Next story is The Reaper's Image. This is about a haunted mirror that if you look in it and see the Green Reaper, you basically disappear. So there ain't nothing. It's a very short story, but it is what it is. Next on the list is Nona. This guy is a drifter. He hitchhikes. He goes to a restaurant. He sees this woman. And then he attacks a truck driver, gets in his face. Then he leaves, and Nona accompanies him. Then they hitch a ride. And the guy ends up killing the driver. It's basically like a Bonnie and Clyde type story. Only no one can see Nona. Only the narrator can see Nona. It's all right. Next is another poem called For Owen. This is a totally misplaced poem. I don't know why it's in here. He needed to publish it somewhere else. It doesn't belong in Skeleton Crew. Next is Survivor Type, another great one. Oh my God, it's great. Seen Castaway with Tom Hanks. This is much better. Guy ends up on a desert island. He has got nothing but heroin. He's a surgeon, so there's no food. He captures a couple birds, but that doesn't curb any appetites. And then he takes his heroin. He's delirious. He starts cutting pieces off of him to survive. It's kind of a self-cannibalism kind of thing. Then he slowly becomes delirious and crazy. It's a great story. Great story. Next is Uncle Otto's Truck. If you've read Christine, then just replace that 58 Fury with a truck, an old 50s truck, and then cut out 400 pages where you get Uncle Otto's Truck. Next is the Milkman stories, Milkman 1 and 2. Apparently this is supposed to have been a slice from a novel. He just took individual chapters and made short stories out of them. The first one kind of stands alone. It's about a milkman who delivers milk, but he puts little prank objects in the milk. Sometimes bugs, like a tarantula. Kind of weird. Whatever. Milkman 2 is about a couple of rednecks trying to get their license plate registered. I don't even know what that's about. I don't even know why it was in there. Next is a story called Grandma, about a little 11-year-old boy who's being made to watch his ill grandma slowly die in the bed. If you've read Pet Sematary, there's a couple scenes in there where the wife of Louis Creed is made to watch her older sister die of spinal meningitis. This is kind of like that, written about the same time. It's not bad. The Ballad of the Flexible Bullet is next. It is a longer story. It's about a guy who's an editor. He receives a short story from his writer, and he absolutely loves it, but his magazine he works for doesn't want to accept it because they don't accept fiction anymore. But he strives to get this story published somewhere. The next and final story is called The Reach. It's not a horror story. It's not a sci-fi story. It is what it is. It's about an old woman who lives off the coast of Maine on an island, and she sees her dead husband across the way in the Reach, and she just goes to him in the bitter cold and ends up dying. So I guess that's supposed to be a bittersweet story. Nice subtle way to end the collection. Overall, the collection is very good. I give it an 8.5 out of 10. My favorite stories are The Mist, The Raft, Survivor Type. The Jumped is not bad. Yeah, pretty good, not bad. Viktor Wolfe, over and out.